Hello, my good children. Welcome back to our online lessons. My name is Mwanda Hamid, and we are just going to begin from where we stopped in science. Our last lesson, we had an experiment to prove or to show that oxygen supports burning. So after that, I left some activity, and we are briefly going to go through this activity as we check with our answers. Number one, start the experiment and answer questions that follow. Then number one, what does the experiment above prove about air? So the answer is oxygen supports burning. Or you can say the experiment proves that oxygen supports burning, basically that. Number two, why is candle A still burning? So we had candle A and B. Candle A is still burning because there is enough oxygen supply. There is enough oxygen supply. That is the answer for number two. What enables candle B to burn for a short time? There is some little oxygen in the glass. Because I explained to you that there is some little oxygen in the glass. Then number four, why has candle B gone off? Because there was no oxygen supply. There was no oxygen supply. Then number five, why does the volume of water rise to occupy the space that was formerly occupied by oxygen? Oxygen. Then number six, which component of air enables candle A to burn? That is oxygen. Number seven, name the gas that supports burning. Still oxygen. I hope you have that. Number eight, apart from supporting burning, mention any other two uses of oxygen. One, oxygen helps in respiration. Then oxygen helps in making plant proteins. So that is that. That was the activity for last time. So we are going to move and continue to go to other things. What are we going to talk about today? Types of objects. So we are going to talk about objects today. You are expected to identify the types of objects, to define the types of objects, then give different types of objects. Session 1, objects. What are objects? Now, my children, I'm going to give you some minutes to think about, actually 1 minute to think about the answers. What are objects? Then we shall compare with mine after. 1 minute. Thank you so much. We move on. What are objects? Objects are material things that can be seen and touched. Can we say that, everyone? Objects are material things that can be seen and touched. Can we spell the word material quickly? Material, M-A-T-E-R-I-A-L. Material. Then, can we spell the word touched? Touched, T-O-U-C-H-E-D. Touched. Then seen, S-E-E-N. Seen. So what are objects? Objects are material things that can be seen and touched. We move on to our next session. Examples of objects. Now look around. We have said these are material things that can be seen and touched. Look around. What are those things that you see and touch? So those are objects. Anything around you that you can see and touch. Now, I want to give you 2 minutes and you list all of them. All the things that you can see and touch. Thank you. I hope your list is now very long. Maybe you have 10 or 15, I don't know. I said just things around you. And let us compare if you have some objects that are related to mine here. One, these are the objects I have around here, and these are the things that we can see, and touch. 1, books. Can we say that? Books, tables, tables, chairs, chairs, glasses, glasses. You are repeating after me. Doors, doors, walls, walls, water, water, clothes, clothes, cups, cups, phones, and so many others. So these are things that can be seen and touched, and so we call them objects. Then we move on to our next session 3, types of objects. Now, all the things we have seen above are grouped into different types. And what are these types? Activity, think. What do you think are these types of objects? They are just 3. Basically 3 types, and we classify, we group all those as we have mentioned above. I've given you 1 minute to think of these 3 types. That's good. Thank you very much. Now, let us compare your answers you have written there with mine here. Types of objects. What are these types of objects? 1, opaque objects. Can we say opaque objects? Opaque objects. That's very good. Can you spell the word opaque? Opaque. O-P-A-Q-U-E. Opaque. Can you spell it again? Opaque. O-P-A-Q-U-E. Opaque. So we have opaque objects. Then 2, we have what we call transparent objects. And we say transparent. Transparent. Again, transparent. Can we spell the word transparent? Transparent. T-R-A-N-C-P-A-R-E-N-T. Transparent. Can you try to spell it again? Very quickly. Transparent. T-R-A-N-S-P-A-R-E-N-T. Transparent. So we have opaque objects. We have transparent objects. Then lastly, we also have translucent objects. So those are the 3 types of objects. 1, can you spell translucent before we go back? Translucent. T-R-A-N-S-L-U-C-E-N-T. Translucent. So those are the 3 types of objects. 1, opaque objects. 2, transparent objects. And 3, translucent objects. Now, can we move on to session 4? Session 4, we are going now to define one by one. Opaque objects. What are opaque objects? Remember, in our sessions, we give you some time to first think and write your answer down. Then after that, you will compare with my answer. Can you write it down? What are opaque objects? Thank you. Now I know you have it there. Can we compare with mine? What are opaque objects? Opaque objects are objects that do not allow light to pass through them. Can we say that, everyone? Opaque objects are objects that do not allow light to pass through them. So these objects, when light comes in light rise, it will end on those. The objects will block, so the light does not pass through them. And when they block, what happens? They form what we call a shadow. We shall look at that in our next lesson. So we say opaque objects are objects that do not allow light to pass through them. What are these examples? Now, among our examples of objects that we mentioned in the previous lesson, we can try to group them now. What are these objects that do not allow light to pass through them? And so those are the opaque objects. So I have here some small lists. We have wood, books, chairs, walls. We have trees, and you can add on. You can add on. Here I just listed a few, but we have so many objects that do not allow light to pass through them. And so those objects are called opaque objects. We moved to our session 5, my good children. I hope you are following. Transparent objects. What are transparent objects? Again, I'm going to give you 1 minute to think and come up with some definition. And then after that, we shall compare with my definition. Transparent objects. Okay? Now, check your answer with mine and we compare. What are transparent objects? Transparent objects are objects that allow light to pass through them. Can we say that, my children? Transparent objects are objects that allow light to pass through them. Can we say it again? Transparent objects are objects that allow light to pass through them. Now, still we shall go to the other list that we had in the previous session. Then we pick. What are those objects? I think when light comes, it will just pass through. They don't block. So they are not like opaque objects. What are these objects? Here I have two. Then you are going to make the list long. You are going to think of other objects that allow light to pass through. So what do I have here? I have clear water. Then I have clear glass. So what are these ones? These are transparent objects. And what are transparent objects? Transparent objects are objects that allow light to pass through them. Then we move on to the next session. Translucent objects. We are about to come to an end of this lesson. What are translucent? Define translucent objects. I'm still going to give you a minute. You come up with an answer. Then we shall compare with mine. Okay? I hope you have finished. You have your answer there. Now, can you come and we compare my answer with yours? What are translucent objects? Translucent objects are objects that allow little light to pass through them. So there is a difference between the other one allow complete, but these ones just little light. So translucent objects are objects that allow little light to pass through them. Now, my good children, can we give still among the examples I said in the other previous session? The examples were many, but I just picked a few. So we can still add on this list. So what do I have here? Examples of translucent objects are sunglasses. We have colorless polythene bags. Then we also have light clothes. So what do? They allow little light to pass through them. So these are some of the examples of translucent objects. So what are we going to do? On this list, we can still add more and more examples of translucent objects. My good children, we have finally come to an end of our today's lesson. And so I'm going to leave you with this simple activity. Sit down, read the questions carefully, and write them well. I'm going to read through very quickly. Number one, what are objects? We had it. List down the three types of objects. What do we call the objects that do not allow light to pass through them? List two examples of opaque objects. Dash are objects that allow light to pass through them. So you put there the answer. Point out any three examples of transparent objects. Then what are translucent objects? And lastly, mention any two objects that allow light to pass through them. So that is our lesson for today. I hope you are going to concentrate and do good work. Sit down. Don't do as you watch TV. You choose one. First do the work, then you go to TV. Or you first watch, then you do my work. Thank you for watching. I remain Mwanda Hamid. Bye-bye.